join this conversation, we have Marvin Murphy. We have JT Medupi. We have Tiana Chinkovich. We have Bonra Mbonzi. And these, and if I did pronounce your name incorrectly, please just do say and accept my apologies. And yeah, so all of these creatives are coming from different backgrounds, from music to concerts to television presenting to voiceover work to teaching in high school to dance, which is why it is so important for us to have this conversation. I'm going to start this conversation, and could you please have your mic muted for now? And then only when you do have a conversation, then something to say, then you can unmute. First of all, I wanted to ask the question, maybe we can start with Bonwa and Tiana, and then go to JT and then Mervyn. Just to talk about your industry, what you do as an artist, whether you're in voiceover, whether you're in teaching, whether you're in concerts, whether you're in mainstream. How do you see your work transforming or changing post-COVID? So after when the government does say, okay, lockdown is lifted, we are getting back to work, what is it that you are going to be doing? What changes in your career? Bonwa, Tiana?
Okay.
So I'll start between the two of us while Bonwa's still fiddling with the tech side of this call. I come from very much an educational, I'm a dance educator and I'm a choreographer primarily. From the dance education end, I think that this really, and being American as well in South Africa, I think this really opens up the opportunities for us to have more international opportunities for our students based around digital exchange and building up digital networks where students and teachers can be connected globally. Like I've been taking classes from dancers in Israel on Instagram Live. I've taken some Zoom classes from dancers and educators from where I'm from, Seattle. And so that's been really fulfilling and awesome. And I think it's something that we've been trying to encourage our students to partake in as well, because it is available, it's here. So we might as well use it. And then on the choreography end of things, I think it's really inspiring a lot of artists to take up using different kinds of mediums and tools. So working with film, working with sound, working with different spaces as well. So not just choreographing for the proscenium, but choreographing in their bedrooms or in their yard, or kind of interacting and using those spaces and choreographing for that environment versus the proscenium environment. And I'm really excited because I love interactive movement experiences and movement performances that don't happen on a stage. So I think this opens up the opportunity for artists to continue pushing past the proscenium and into other communities and spaces as well, as we start to be able to have physical performances again. Yeah. Bonwa, are you?
Yeah, sorry, I'm still struggling with this thing. Yeah, definitely. Here we go. Here we go. Can you see us now? Here we go. Cool. Can you see us? Can you see us? Super. Can you hear us as well? Cool. Yeah, definitely. Connectivity, I think, is where post-COVID world that we're heading into. It's going to become even more kind of what's the word, ubiquitous. As the world gets more connected, it will enable us to shift the format, the form. I think artistically, but also in terms of just yeah, like there's different spaces that we're able to explore in this particular um, in this day and age. You know, I think the marvels of modern technology make it so much more um, easier for us to be connected, to work really from anywhere in the world, or any space. And this is, I think, the key message that we try and communicate in terms of dance, in particular, amongst all the other art forms, is that dance is life itself. You know, it's in everything that we do. So it's just about how do we reflect that in the work that we do. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's it for now, I guess. Um, yeah.
Thank you so much, JT, Mervin.
Should I go first? All right. Hi everyone. This is JT Midupi. I am primarily a stage and screen actor. I am a theater practitioner and educational theater facilitator. I create content as well for behavioral change for a couple of corporate companies and minds. I do as well do a lot of voice work. In terms of the voice work, that's kind of sorted in a way because I work from home right now. I had to have a home studio set up and everything. So that hasn't gotten as much of a knock as the other sectors. So there's that convenience to work from home. There's that, safety aspect as well, because, we have to observe social distancing and isolate yourself if needs be. The theater part of things, it's a bit challenging, but at the same time, just like Tiana said, it kind of opens up for the digital space, really. So in a way, finding alternative ways for theater to reach people without them being there in the, physically in the theater. Obviously, the challenges that come with that would be accessibility. Um, it would also be like how to go about, reaching your various audiences, your target audiences, how to properly put together your production so that it still has the same kind of impact, and it's still as you had imagined it when when you had to perform it live in front of a live audience. So really, it's at that time right now where we kind of need to make means. We kind of need to explore different avenues, different ways to still do what we love, to still to make sure that the theater doesn't die. In fact, it expands and it grows even beyond where it's been so far. Yeah. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, JT. Um,
Hello, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Thank you, thank you. I'm Merv, and I also really come from the theater, on stage, live theater world. Can everybody hear me? Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so for me, it's this whole experience, this whole dilemma that we're in has been really, really eye-opening and difficult, because none of us really know how. We really don't know in terms of traveling. You know, I do a lot of work overseas. I'm mostly based in Miami, overseas. With my own work, I have my own show that I do abroad, that I will do, you know, in concerts abroad, or I would book a cruise and they would hire me for a couple of months on my show. So that's been a very eye-opening, because we are totally forced. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. We are totally forced to totally think out of the box, and actively so and proactively so, because even though the lockdown and the level 3 will be kind of um, eased up, if we are being realistic, theater is one of the last things that will come back.
Yeah.
So, because it's just not practical right now. First of all, it's very expensive to ask any theater company in South Africa to now invest thousands and hundreds of thousands of rand for PPE, for their cast, for their crew, and then for their audiences. It's just going to be really difficult. It's going to be really difficult. So I love what everybody has said here, because the digital platform is where we have to start investing our energy and our brains and our creativity, because that is what's going to keep what we've kind of created for years and years and years and years and years and years, and
Yeah.
keep it alive. So I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation, because this is about problem solving. This is about solutions, and this whole platform that we are engaging in today is about how do we get to the next level? How do we,
Yeah.
if the level is digital, how do we ensure that that level and that digital platform is stable and is productive and reaches audiences and reaches our media? How do we take whatever is going on and present it to the government and go, you know what, we actually need your help. You actually need to be proactively involved in our lives. That's really important to me.
Yes, Bono. Def.
Just a little footnote to and add to what Mervyn is saying. I would
Yes, definitely.
I would even go as far as saying that how do we communicate to the powers that be that they actually need us at this particular point in time, you know, so that we really think about changing the narrative that actually theater, the arts, you know, and culture. I mean, these are integral and essential parts of you know, us as human beings, but also about us dealing with these incredibly traumatic times that we're living in, you know, which we all know. But it's about, I think, stating our case even more so that the psychosocial benefits of investing in the arts and obviously allowing them to change and transform as we move ahead. Just a little.
Perfect. That's brilliant. And I think um, just maybe throwing it back at you guys, Bonwa and Tiana. I mean, you guys have been doing a lot of work, especially when it comes to youth. And I love what you said about collaborating digitally with international artists, working in different spaces and using the digital space. But then what about accessibility, for example, in saying that as much as it's very possible for some artists to access the digital space. But then what happens to those artists who can't access digital spaces, who don't have the technology, who don't have even laptops, for example, to communicate with people online, or to even spare 30 minutes to be in a Zoom meeting, whether it's an economic thing, or whether it's a preferential decision. Like, what do you say in terms of that, in terms of accessibility? How can we think beyond this idea of, or how can you go deeper in terms of communicating and having a relationship with the digital economy, with our present reality as South African artists?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, but I mean, this is something that we struggled with this. We just did a youth film festival for our students where over the course of several weeks, we worked on kind of developing these films and workshopping them and doing all this work on them. And then we had a week-long festival where we had several events, and it was always a continuous struggle and thought in our minds, because we do work out in some township communities, and with those schools, how do we get those students involved, and how do we communicate with them? Because our students from the private schools, I mean, we have access to them. They have access to us in a much easier way versus our townships, our students from the townships, where we basically, how we communicate with them is in person and face to face. So that was definitely something we struggled through.
Also, that being said, though, I think let's not kid ourselves here, because one has a look online, for instance. There's a lot of activity that that happens with people who do come from, say, underprivileged backgrounds. So it's also about them making a conscious choice to redirect some of those limited resources that they have. Instead of, for instance, using your data to put all sorts of selfies and all things that really are an egocentric kind of trip. Instead, how do we, and this is again part of what education in our country, I think the educational system what it has failed at doing is creating a citizenry, and starting from a young age, ECD, where there's a value for cultural and artistic pursuits, even on an individual level. You know what I mean? That are more kind of authentic than, I would say, your kind of superficial and the spectacle of it all. I'm not saying that there isn't a real challenge in terms of resources and in terms of accessibility. That's absolutely true. Mervyn, you hit the nail on the head there. Ideally, you should still be able to travel and perform and spread your art and so on, but obviously times are what they are. Accessibility is what it is. Like Tiu said, we can perform in all these various spaces that we're in, but I think, we need to, part of it is about appealing to the powers that be, and also appealing to, in the microspace, in terms of family and what we value kids and what we teach them to value, to really invest time in the arts, in culture, in these things that cultivate the spirit, that cultivate the mind, instead of just appealing to the superficial spectacle.
Yeah, and I think too, part of it is we figured out how to meet our students where they're at. So you can't, we couldn't expect them to do things that they didn't have access to, but most of them had access to a phone, whether it was theirs or their families. And they had access to some form of Facebook. And so we could interface with them using Facebook Messenger, using...
which is free, by the way. Facebook Messenger is free, so even on that little platform, we could still engage with our Slang Space Super Troopers, and even some kids from up in Malmöth, because it's a free platform. But then when it comes to, obviously, the YouTube links, or even downloading the small PDFs, it is a problem. And then that's where one really looks into their own pockets to contribute, because that's part of the core, I think, of artists, I think, is nowadays, is that whatever resources you have as well, no matter how limited they are, it's also upon you to invest in the generations that come after you, the young generations who will, who are the future of the art form that you practice, of the craft that you practice. So, one has to just really try and keep trying.
But as far as accessibility, not just of youth, but of the audiences, like getting diverse audiences, getting diverse groups of people to view the art we're creating, I think it's figuring out what platforms do people use and have access to, and how can we use those open source things as much as possible to meet people where they're at and not expect them to come to us.
Because that's a reality.
Perfect. Yeah. Guys, JT, do you have some comments about that in terms of how do we allow accessibility? I mean, I fully hear what Bonwa and Tiana are saying, and those ideas are absolutely very possible. Do you have any comments? And I am still listening. I'm just going to switch off my my video.
Yes, sure. I mean, they've obviously taken words out of my mouth. It honestly really boils down to how do we now proceed to kind of the next step in terms of accessing the digital space. But primarily my worry, and I think this also applies to all of us here, is for those of us or those artists who do not have the resources to kind of use that platform. How do we assist them? How do we help each other? What means are there, to kind of use the little resources that you have to build on that? What kind of help is there for the different artists who really who have to put their work out there in the digital space? Because, like, honestly, there's a lot of artists who actually don't know, who don't have the know-how in terms of how do you still make a living, how do you still stay sane, how do you still remain an artist, except now that the game has kind of changed. The new normal is something totally different. How exactly, I think this is something that we kind of need to put our heads together to establish. Personally, I don't know how. I have an idea, but I mean, there has to be some kind of guidance and help here and there. Like I said, with the voice work, I think I'm on the right direction. Got a home studio set up here, so clients just send in their briefs, and then we obviously use Skype or Zoom to have meetings. They give feedback and whatnot. But all the other avenues, I'm not entirely sure how we could kind of go about, with them. So.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everybody. What a time! What a time! But I've seen some really interesting things online of how other theaters in other countries or other establishments in other countries, or the industry itself, how they've kind of kept the spark going, even if it is at a low medium. The spark is still there, and they've done that digitally. So, for example, let's just say we've got a cast of we had a cast of 15 people, okay, and we had this show before COVID started. So you have this cast of 15 people, they're on there, COVID happens, obviously they're not doing anything. What happened was they then cut, almost kept some of the actors, paid them whatever, but then they cut because of social distancing. They had like 5 or 6 perform the show, and what they did was they would have rotational performances online of the same show but different people in the cast. Do you understand what I'm saying? So everybody gets an opportunity and everybody is seen and everybody remains paid. That was one thing that I saw that I thought was really, really cool. Um, and then there are also, in terms of the five of us, and maybe even we could even come up with, a small little collective board of people where we're all from all over. We've got voiceover, we've got dance, we've got theater practitioners, we've got voice artists, we've got voice artists there, we've got stage managers, we literally have the whole body of people that we need. If we all come together as a board and say, okay, how about we start something online where it starts off as educational, and it's educational towards the underprivileged, the people that our youth that is going to take over the world, tomorrow. How do we reach out to them? How do we help them? How do we educate them? As thespians and people that have been in the industry for a long time, how do we educate them and push them forward in this new digital platform? Because you know what, there's a lot that we can learn as well from these young kids on how to continue keeping our love alive. So if we all come together and say, let's start something, let's start a board, let's start a platform, let's make it educational. Every now and then, let's do a how-to video online, just on YouTube or whatever, or on Facebook Live, okay? Um, on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, whatever, we host we get somebody to host every other day and say, okay, JT, today we're gonna be having you do a Facebook Live about voice artists. There's a lot of people out there that want to do it, but they don't know how to start. So we're gonna give you a 1 minute, 30-second slot or whatever, or 2 minute slot or 3 minute slot on live, and we're going to be presenting you, and you're going to be saying how to do it and teaching them how to do it. Okay, perfect. Bonwan B said, so we're gonna, maybe you're interested in teaching, camera work or whatever. We're gonna give you this opportunity this day to do that, to educate. And literally, I think doing that and having that consistency, because online digital work is all about consistency. If you're consistent, your following will be with you the entire time. It's consistency. And if you just keep doing that, because what we are doing is we're looking at longevity. So once we've done that and we have an archive of our work that is educational, we can immediately walk into SABC, for instance, and say, listen here, we've got all these amazing people. We've got this beautiful talent that is out there. We've got theater performers here. Can we find a slot, a 1 hour slot, where we can showcase this particular show that we created? And boom, and they will take us seriously, because we have shown that we have created a strong digital market and network. Because to be honest, COVID-19 is our new life. It's our new life. It's just coming up in South Africa. It's gonna get worse, unfortunately. It really is gonna get worse. So it's something that we're gonna just have to get used to and to work around. I know we don't want to hear that, but We just have to be real.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Those are brilliant ideas. Definitely. I mean, I'm going to be there, especially when it comes to forming a collective or forming a union. And that's exactly what I was thinking about. Is in when we talk about the South African arts or teaching or creative arts, or we never actually have a union or some kind of a body that advocates, that protects, that educates for the rights of artists. And then the problem then becomes with our government is that when the government then implements different policies, we go and we say, but we're not recognized as artists, when in actual fact, there is no one who's advocating for such things, and it becomes too short notice. So I think definitely if we could have a national board, and what do I mean by a national board? I mean, already we have somebody from KZN, which is Bono and Tiana. I mean, Mervyn is traveling around the world. We have JT who's also traveling. And so having spaces like that and little webs, connections to create those connections is very possible. I wanted to talk about, before we move on, is that the idea that, okay, so we have COVID and COVID then stays for, well, it becomes our new normal. So what do we then go, I mean, my question actually has a little bit of a statement behind it. And the thing is, us as artists, we have been, especially those who are working in the theater, working in the dance, rehearsals and training and shows and performances, we have been struggling so much to get an audience. We've been struggling so much to invite people to come and watch our shows for years and years and years. The artist has been always advocating, doing pamphlets, doing posters, sending out invites, and we're constantly getting either 1 or 5 people coming to the audience, 1 or 5 people coming to the dance class, whatever. And so my question is, we've been struggling so much to get an audience. How now are we going to be sure that people are going to be interested in the work that we are doing, especially now when we are going into a digital platform where there are billions of people that are producing TikTok videos, and they are artists also. You know, there are billions of people who are influencers who are on Instagram getting thousands and thousands of reception for work that they will actually call themselves as artists. Um, and so then it almost like, and so what happens is that the COVID era now becomes a space where everything is possible. Now everybody can be an artist. And so then my question is, how do we maintain us as artists getting an audience, getting a public, and advocating for certain issues, um, and maintaining that reach, or even maintaining the interest of students? I know that even teaching now, teaching, a lot of students are just not interested in your technique, in your Grotowski, in your whatever kind of textual references. They're now interested in what is the quickest way to dance the trending dance, or whatever is trending currently at that time. So we're battling with that kind of reach and interest. Any views? Anyone wants to talk about that?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm really, ooh, am I stealing this from someone?
Yeah, speak. You can.
Okay, I'll go. And I'm really interested in as a choreographer in how people are interacting with art, and looking at it within the modern sense of how people expect to have experiences. Like, you look at the museums, and kind of the museums that actually end up making money now are these experiential art museums where you go and you're like in a room filled with light and there's lasers going around and you get to take your cool Instagram shots. People want to be a part of the experience of actually creating the art. They want to be a part of being within it. They want to have experiences where they're engaging with it on in a very real and visceral and textual layer. They are looking for something that they can't just watch on their phone. They're looking for something that goes beyond just, oh, I could watch a YouTube video that does the same thing. They want those kinds of interactive experiences. And as we look at that in the digital sense, I think it's figuring out ways of using the technology that exists to create those interactive experiences, and not just in the sense of like, oh, they're going to write a comment and maybe some little bubbles will go, but how do you actually incorporate them into the art piece as it's being performed? And I mean, the first thing that pops into my head, which is a crazy thing, it's more of a pipe dream, would be like, you know, in apps where you can put the kitty face on, or I don't know exactly what that's called, but like if the filters and things, incorporating something where the audience is involved using a technology like that would be spectacular. And I think people would engage with that because they could then take a screenshot and be like, oh my gosh, this was so much fun. You know, they want those kinds of experiences.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I'm a huge technological fan. Technology, I love technology. I think we should be embracing more of it, but at the same time, I think we should try and this is connecting to your question, Finch, about the distinction between, like, say, artists and, like, you know, everyone being also part of seeing themselves as creatives and as artists to a certain extent. But I think there are two distinctive traditions there. But yeah, I'll get to that now. Technologically, to add to what you're saying, absolutely, that's what's called augmented reality, as well as virtual reality. How do we incorporate those two key technologies that are still, I mean, they've done a lot of development on these two technologies, augmented reality and virtual reality. But I think with COVID, post-COVID, these are things that we really need to look into, because, for instance, augmented reality is about how do you use so having, say, for instance, three-dimensional objects appearing in the space around you, and you interacting with those three-dimensional, say, creatures or objects. But obviously, you need a particular lens. So if you are tuning into, say, if we were putting on a show here, for instance, if the audience also had a program with a lens, they would be able to see what's around us, and they would also be able to interact in their space with whatever is there. The other one, virtual reality, is about, you know, putting the wearable technology. So putting these goggles which plunge you into this world. It's immersive. You with the earphones, you feel like you're there. Obviously, at the moment, that technology is still working on the tactile functions, which are very difficult to simulate. You know, feelings and being aware.
The problem with things like that, though, is they're not something that people have access to now.
No, I know.
I'm talking about like using the apps and programs that people already kind of have access to.
Yeah,
I
mean,
sure. In the future, like looking long term, yeah, but
I would even, again, yeah, we can look long term, but long term in this present, which is our future, is actually like, it's now, really. The future is now. These technologies are here. The resources, like you said, Finch, are there. It's about advocating for those resources to be released, or for people to gain more access to these resources. But again, I agree that there's a whole political obstacle course to deal with in terms of getting that down to the people. But again, that's how the question is: how do you advocate for the state, the powers that be, not just the public, but also the private, to invest billions into this? Because again, is their infrastructure is being upgraded now. You know, it's just only a matter of time. And that has to do with what Mervyn was saying in terms of education. I absolutely agree with you. I think, you know, it has to be something that is part of the you know, where education, you know, it's also going through its own reformations. It's also transforming, and you know, the global collectives like one is starting and so on are these spaces that will allow, yes, artists to also give back and interact with, you know, learners, but at the same time, you know, speak about the art form that they're doing, educating people, audience development, like PJ, we used to learn from PJ. You know, it's so important that the audience is educated and understands the difference between art, as James Baldwin would have seen it, art with integrity, and art that is more a superficial spectacle, which is like Kool-Aid. It's not something that is about enriching the soul or really speaking to issues that are of an existential nature. And I think that's really the thing that art and artists need to do, is really go back to its roots. You know, art, theater has its roots in the rituals, in the churches, in all the spiritual aspects of being. It's now being taken over by the market and being made into something that's very, again, superficial, which, you know, I think we need to be careful about. So yes, those kitty filters.
That and using it in
No, for sure.
yeah.
But we have to understand again that it's not just COVID that we're dealing with here, because there are also other socio-political issues that are happening, pandemics that are happening. And so art has to play a role, a more active role, rather than just entertaining people and making them, you know, giving them, you know, yeah. Sorry, spoken too much. Over to you guys.
Mervyn, you had something to say?
Hello. You can hear me? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. You guys are right. You guys are right. And I do think that I really just think that education is the way to go in terms of this, and education consistency and forceful, what would I say? I do want to say, I want to use the word force. We have to force. We have to force at this time. We have to charge. The problem with us as South Africans is that we are way too commercial. We believe in people want to see what they want to see. They want to see who they want to see. They're in South Africa. So for us, it's so much, in order for you to push something or to sell something, people need to be familiarized with it, or somebody familiar needs to be in the place, in the platform, before it even is believed, before it even goes anywhere. And that about our industry makes me so mad, because that kind of thinking creates our industry to remain where it is, which is not, it's just not a big industry because we're like this. So, and it's a monopoly because it's the same faces every single time, the same people every single time. So if we can take advantage of that, if we can take advantage of that and use the people that people know that are so familiar to help us educate and inject a sense of forward movement, things will work out the way they're supposed to work out. But familiarity, consistency, education is the way to go. And I love how you're thinking, Bon Rabise, and how you guys are thinking in terms of the future and that whole concept of, you know, the goggle concept, the goggle entertainment concept, because that's we're moving towards that. We're moving towards that. But the digital platform, I don't know if you agree, JT. I see you nodding your head a lot. Is you know, it's ready to be born in South Africa, but we have to push and force. We have to force people to open up to the new norm. And maybe we need to use that monopoly to get us there.
Absolutely. Can I go ahead? Hello? Why does it look like I don't have sound? Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No. Honestly, just to tie up onto what everyone has said. It's also just a matter of just curating our content, just kind of, you know, modeling it in a way that won't be of any kind of competition or won't be threatened by the YouTubers and TikTok users who have kind of bombarded that space right now. Good for them. Um, yeah, but we kind of also gonna need the key players to come on board. I saw something very interesting that the Market Theatre has kind of launched, I think 2 weeks ago, where they have a series of monologues and duologues. For now, it's looking absolutely amazing. I didn't think I would actually get the kind of you know, feedback and I didn't think I'd be so engrossed and entertained, thoroughly entertained by watching theater from the comfort of my own home. So that's kind of great. We need everyone else to kind of, you know, follow suit, but also have these talks, have this educational journey with everyone so that we move at the same pace. There's a lot of disenfranchised and underprivileged artists, and those are actually my biggest worry, because if they cannot access these spaces, and obviously their future is looking a bit bleak, and we don't want that. We really don't want that. We still want the community theaters that we've been working with, that we've been, you know, training to also move with us, and that's what I mean by modeling our work in a way that it still has the same kind of impact. It doesn't lose value. It's still theater or whatever you're doing, musical, film, short film, except obviously now it's online. Um, Also adding on to that, bringing the little communities that we've built over the years so that we don't lose them. Yeah, so it's really it's an interesting journey ahead. But like Merv said, we have to fight. We have to give it our all. We have to at least try. You know, we have to take those steps, because there isn't any other way. That there's no way of dodging or escaping this COVID. It's going to be a part of our lives. We just need to find ways to live around it. Thanks. Yeah.
Well, I totally agree with all of you guys. And I think just to add on to that, in terms of archiving and cultivating a spirit of almost creating knowledge. What do I mean by that? I mean in terms of looking at looking at 10 years from now, for example, because we can't run away from the facts that we are living in a revolution. I mean, not only are we having a social and political transformation and evolution in our world, but we are moving into a different stage in terms of consciousness and living. And I feel that it's very now important for us as individual artists and teachers to archive our work. And even if we are using this technology, it'll be so beneficial 10 years from now when we go back and we read about Bonwa dance theory, for example, that utilizes technology or collaboration. So I think looking at our work in a much more magnetic sense, in a sense where we are able to share the knowledge. I mean, yeah, it's just very important for us to archive and to protect the specialness about our work and the uniqueness that we have with the work that we have right now, with the ideas that we have. So as much as it is going to be a challenge, but I do feel that we are already doing it. I mean, look at the concerts that you did yesterday with the dance, with the dance competition. I mean, that was also something that other people are only beginning now to start doing. Doing voiceover work at your comfort at your own bed, doing cross-national collaborations, just using your phone. I think these are the elements of this new world that we are living in, and these need to be documented. If they're not going to be documented by other people, I think that we should document them ourselves. So I thank you so much for all of your time. Is there anybody who has anything else to say before we close?
Yeah, just thanks for having us, Finch. Definitely such a valuable exercise this, and JT is absolutely right. We need more conversations like these. We need regular updates and the dialogue to continue as to kind of touch base, get a sense of where everyone is at the moment, what's possible, what isn't possible, and I think really the key is also to as a kind of a body of artists and other cultural leaders, in especially it's not at home in our society, to hold the Department of Arts and Culture accountable, to fight for our rights and the agency of artists. And again, I think really the key here is to really communicate the message. It's a truth that artists are needed at this particular point in time. They are essential, as essential as people going to church and other spiritual pursuits. Art and the culture that comes out of art is on that same level, on that same spiritual and existential level. And if our society, if we are going to come out of this stronger and head off to a much brighter future, we just need to recognize that. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to, really push for everyone across the board, from the private space to the public, to all be part of the story, because that's really that's what it's about. It's about us working as a society together, and arts is that glue. Anyway, so that's just what I want to say. Thank you, Finch. Thank you, Mervyn and JT and PCT. And it's been great, guys. It's awesome stuff that you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anybody else before we cut?
Amazing meeting you guys. This was really, really informative. This was so good. And I think that, Finch, we need to continue this. We need to have more of these conversations. I believe in numbers. Numbers are great, but if we want to keep it focused for now, that's even better. This will allow us to, all of us, to kind of marinate on what we talked about today and let that set and let that marinate. And then next time when we get together in a few days, hopefully, we can come up with the next step, because this is literally where we're starting. And so we want to keep the momentum going. You want to strike while the iron is hot. Um, and I think it's really important for us to start with that. And I've been thinking, what if a bunch of us, artists, just kind of stood up and protested and went, no, this is you need us, like, no. Because what happens if people don't understand, and I think South Africa does not understand the importance of what we do as artists, entertainers in the industry, as an industry. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be able to broadcast news.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for the entertainment industry, they would not be able to broadcast the news. So we need to start there and educate them and say, you need to think about what you're saying and what you're doing, because at this point, people are going hungry. Our friends are going hungry. The messages that I get on every 2, 3 days from some of my friends, that are artists, it breaks me. It keeps me so depressed. Getting
Mm.
text messages of, hey friend, I'm being kicked out of my apartment because now, I can't afford it, because I've been living in Santon because I've been getting a certain amount, and now production is not happening. Now I have to move out and now I have to go back home, which is, and not that it's just that's just not on for me. So I think more than anything, I'm just pleading and hoping that we can have these conversations and come up with solutions, because I think amongst us we have a lot of amazing brain power, each and every one of you guys. As I'm looking at you, we have a ton of brain power, and we're so valuable, and we're so valid, and we're so enough, and we're so strong, and we're so able that we can totally continue this and make a change. It's not about the superficial. Now it's about, we are essential. We are
Yeah,
also essential.
yeah. Thank you, Merv. Thank you, Merv.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Finch, for organizing this. It really was an absolute pleasure to be in a space where, we exchange such valuable information. I'm going home right now. Well, I am home. I just mean after this call, I would have had new tools actually from each and every one of you guys. I learned a lot, so I've got new tools to kind of utilize to drive what I've already been onto to incorporate to aid in working through a way forward. I take a lot of comfort in knowing that I am not alone. Um, just the four heads that I've engaged with right now, just from you guys, there's already a lot that kind of that I go, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually great. We're moving in the right direction. We just really need to get everyone else on board. We need to get the government on board. We need to let
Yeah,
them know exactly
definitely.
what it is that we as artists have in mind, what it is that they can help with, to help us move forward and just to play their part, really. I think it's about time, like Merv said, the government um, takes us seriously as artists, just the same way
Mhm.
they take every other sector. Um, so really, I really thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
Tiana. Thank you, Bono. Thank you, Merv. thank you. I
Thank
hope
you
this is
so
really
much.
not the last time we have this. So yes.
No, definitely not. Thank you so much, guys, and have a lovely, lovely weekend. Thank you for the valuable time, and I appreciate so much of gratitude. Thank you.
Can you?
Thank you.
One more point. One more point.
Yeah.
I just want you guys to have also look at do your own research, obviously, but automation and how the jobs and what the nature of work, how that's changing now and how it's going to change, obviously, post-COVID, and really how the arts are the last industry, one of the last industries that will be impacted by automation and the digital technology and the advances that it will make in the coming years. So I think that can also add to our advocacy, our argument in the importance and relevance of the arts as work, as people being employed, jobs,
Yeah.
people can do. So that's
Thank you.
one thing I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so the recording is going to be available. Possibly Bonra's going to let us know.
I'll Finch, I'll send it to you, and then you can edit it and do whatever you need to do with it.
Okay, cool. And then I'll just do that. And then JT and Merv will send that to you guys also.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time.
Indeed.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.
I think
Bye,
yes.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. I think also, Finch, maybe we could
Merv is
put
still
it
talking.
together and take
Yeah.
put the recording together and start a series of, you know, an online series where you put the thing together, you put out
Okay.
whatever that's
That's a
there,
good idea.
you put it kind of like a podcast, you know, and then if you want to hear
That's the
more,
idea.
then people click on it or whatever. But I think it's great that we have these conversations, and that's going to be the best way for us to say, you know, to another artist or another, you know, can you go onto this podcast and just kind of listen to what we're talking about? What do you think? Do you have any ideas? You know, do you want to be a part of it? I think it's important
Yes.
for us to
Consider it
let
done.
it
Thank you, Merv.
about letting it breathe.
Cool.
Definitely. Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. I have to. Goodbye, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.